Commander John Miller stared at the ancient text on his screen. The soft blue glow illuminated his tired face in the dim light of his quarters aboard the USV Constellation. He rubbed his eyes but continued reading about the Void Harbingers and their Black Fleet. These stories appeared in the records of 12 different star systems, yet everyone treated them as mere folklore. Computer, cross-reference these legends with early colonial reports, Miller said. His voice was rough from lack of sleep. The computer beeped. 7 matches found. Displaying results. Miller leaned forward. Each account described the same thing. Massive ships with hulls that absorbed light, appearing without warning, leaving only destruction behind. The stories were separated by centuries and light years, yet they matched in ways that made his skin crawl. A knock at his door broke his concentration. "Enter," Miller called. Lieutenant Kate Brooks stepped in. Her red hair was pulled back in a neat bun, her uniform crisp despite the late hour. "Still chasing ghosts, John?" she asked, eyeing the screens. Miller sighed. "These aren't just stories, Kate. There's too much consistency across too many independent sources. Space is scary. People make up monsters to explain things they don't understand." Brooks crossed her arms. "You need sleep, not ancient campfire tales." "Look at the patterns," Miller insisted, pointing to his screen. "The Black Fleet always appears after a civilization reaches a certain technological level. First contact is always preceded by strange energy readings, and they always come from the same region of space." Brooks shook her head. Coincidence, or maybe early colonists shared the same stories. Miller was about to argue when his comm unit beeped. "Commander Miller, report to the bridge immediately," came the voice of Captain Laura Dias. Miller and Brooks exchanged looks and hurried to the bridge. The main screen showed a strange energy pattern at the edge of the system. Science Officer Gary White was frantically working at his station. "What are we looking at?" Miller asked. "Unknown energy signature, sir," White replied. "It appeared 20 minutes ago and has been growing stronger. It doesn't match anything in our database." Miller felt a chill. "Can you pinpoint the location?" "Sector 7, near the outer boundary," White said. Miller looked at Captain Dias. "Captain, this matches the precursor signs from the legends I've been studying." Dias frowned. "Commander, I respect your research, but I need science, not stories." "The energy pattern is exactly what the Centauri colonists reported before they lost contact with 3 outposts," Miller insisted. "And what the Proxima records described before the disappearance of their mining fleet." Brooks stepped forward. "John, you can't seriously." "Send the data to Admiral Peterson," Miller interrupted. "Request permission for a reconnaissance mission." Captain Dias hesitated, then nodded to Communications Officer Ryan Bell. "Do it." 3 hours later, Miller stood before Admiral Frank Peterson in the station's command center. Peterson was a tall man with gray hair and a permanently stern expression. "You want to investigate an energy anomaly because of some ancient legends?" Peterson asked. "Yes, sir," Miller replied. "The patterns match too perfectly to ignore." Peterson studied the data. "And what do you expect to find?" "Hopefully nothing, sir. But if the legends are true, we need to know before it's too late." Peterson was silent for a long moment. "I'm authorizing a small recon mission. Take a scout ship and a team of 4. Observe and report only. No engagement." "Thank you, sir," Miller said. "Don't make me regret this, Commander," Peterson warned. As Miller left the office, Brooks was waiting outside. "You're going to look foolish when this turns out to be nothing," she said. Miller looked at her. "I hope you're right, Kate. I really do." But as he walked away to prepare for the mission, the words from the ancient texts echoed in his mind. "When the stars dim and the void whispers, the Black Fleet comes, and what follows is silence." The scout ship Falcon moved silently through the darkness of space. Commander John Miller stood at the viewport, watching the stars. Behind him, communications specialist Lisa Wright and engineer Paul Harris worked at their stations. "Approaching the coordinates, sir," said pilot Alan Jones. His hands moved steadily across the controls. Miller nodded, slow to quarter speed. "Let's take this carefully." The ship slowed as they entered the area where the strange energy readings had been detected. At first, they saw nothing unusual. "Scanning the area now," said Harris. "Wait, there's something here." Miller moved to look at Harris's screen. "What is it?" "It's about 2 kilometers ahead. Small object, maybe 20 meters across. It's not showing up on standard scans, but it's affecting the space around it." Miller felt his heart beat faster. "Take us closer." Minimal speed. As the Falcon moved forward, they finally saw it. A dark object floating in space. It was shaped like a diamond with strange markings etched into its surface. The object seemed to swallow the light around it, making it hard to see clearly. "That matches the descriptions in the legends," Miller said quietly. "The Void Stone, or Night Seed, mentioned in the Arcturus records." Lisa Wright looked nervous. "Should we report back first?" "Let's gather some data," Miller replied. "Harris, can you scan it?" The engineer nodded and activated the ship's sensors. As soon as the scan began, the object started to change. The markings on its surface glowed with a deep purple light. "Power surge detected," Harris called out. "It's activating." "Shut down the scan," Miller ordered. But it was too late. The object pulsed with energy, then released a beam of light that shot past their ship and into deep space. "What just happened?" Wright asked, her voice shaking. "It sent a signal," Miller said grimly. "Jones, back us off." "Wright, record everything." "Harris, analyze that signal if possible." The team worked quickly as the Falcon retreated to a safe distance. The object had gone dark again, floating silently in space. "Signal analysis shows it was directed toward the Cygnus sector," Harris reported. "Extremely powerful. Whatever it was trying to reach, it would get there." Miller nodded. "We've seen enough." Jones, set course back to the constellation. Maximum speed. 3 days later, Miller stood before a panel of scientists and military officers on Earth Space Station Alpha. He had just finished presenting his findings, and the response was not what he had hoped for. "A space rock that sends signals?" asked Dr. Ben Ward with a smirk. "Commander, with all respect, this sounds like something from a children's story." "The data is clear," Miller insisted. "The object matches the descriptions from multiple ancient records. Its behavior when scanned triggered exactly what the legends warned about, a calling signal." Admiral Peterson, who had authorized the mission, looked uncomfortable. Most of the panel seemed skeptical or openly dismissive. As the meeting ended, a woman approached Miller in the hallway. She was tall with short brown hair and intelligent eyes. "Commander Miller, I'm Dr. Olivia Green, an archaeologist." Miller shook her hand. "Dr. Green, you were the only one in there who didn't look at me like I was crazy." She smiled slightly. "Because I've studied those same legends. The Night Seed appears in records from civilizations that vanish without explanation." Miller felt relief wash over him. Finally, someone who understands. "I want to help," Dr. Green said. "Those markings you recorded, I might be able to translate them." Before Miller could respond, his communication device beeped urgently. It was Lieutenant Brooks from the Constellation. "John, you need to get back here now." Her voice was tense. "Long-range sensors are picking up multiple anomalies approaching human space. They appeared exactly where that signal was directed." Miller looked at Dr. Green, his face pale. "It's happening," he said. "The legends were true. In the darkness beyond the edge of human space, something was coming." New Dawn Colony was a bright jewel in human space. 50,000 people lived there, farming the rich soil and mining valuable minerals. They had no warning when the sky darkened. Susan Clark, the colony governor, was the first to notice the strange shadows moving across the sun. She stepped outside her office and looked up. What she saw made her blood run cold. Massive ships hung in the sky. Their hulls were so black they seemed to swallow the light around them. There were 5 of them, each larger than any human vessel ever built. "Sound the alarm," she told her assistant. "Contact Earth immediately." Across the colony, people stopped their work and stared upward. The emergency sirens began to wail. On the USV Constellation, Commander Miller watched the emergency transmission from New Dawn with a grim face. The signal cut off mid-sentence, replaced by static. "Time to arrival at New Dawn?" Miller asked. 6 hours at maximum speed," replied Navigation Officer Joe Martinez. Admiral Peterson entered the bridge. His face was stone. "We've lost all contact with New Dawn. I'm sending a full battle group. The Constellation will lead." Miller nodded. "Sir, what about the other colonies?" "We're sending warnings, but we don't have enough ships to protect everyone." Peterson looked tired. "Those ships match your descriptions, Miller. The Black Fleet is real." When they reached New Dawn, they found only ruins. The once thriving colony was silent. Buildings were crushed. Fields were burned. No bodies were found. "They took them," Miller said softly as he surveyed the destruction through the viewscreen. "Just like in the legends, they harvest advanced civilizations." Lieutenant Brooks stood beside him. Her earlier skepticism was gone. "Where did they go?" "Long-range scanners show 3 large objects moving toward the Orion colony," reported Science Officer White. "And 2 more heading for Earth," added Communications Officer Bell. Admiral Peterson's face appeared on the main screen. "All ships, this is Admiral Peterson. Earth Defense Command has ordered full mobilization. All civilian vessels are to evacuate to designated safe zones. Military vessels will form a defensive line at Mars orbit." Miller turned to Brooks. "We need to know more about what we're facing. I need to get back to Earth and work with Dr. Green on those symbols." The journey back to Earth was tense. News of New Dawn's destruction spread quickly. Panic followed. People rushed to leave outer colonies. Military ships scrambled to form defensive positions. In her lab on Earth Space Station Alpha, Dr. Olivia Green worked frantically to decode the symbols from the void object. When Miller arrived, she looked up with red-rimmed eyes. "Commander, I've made progress," she said. "These symbols appear in ruins across 12 worlds. They tell the same story. The Black Fleet visits civilizations that reach a certain technological threshold." "Why?" Miller asked. "Energy," Dr. Green explained. "They harvest advanced technology and the people who create it. They use them to power their ships, like batteries." Miller felt sick. "How do we fight them?" The legends mention a defensive weapon created by an ancient race, but most of the details are missing. She pointed to a set of symbols. "This refers to something called the Sentinel Protocol. It might be our only hope." A loud alarm interrupted them. Outside the station's viewport, they could see Earth's defense fleet moving into position. In the distance, 2 massive black shapes appeared against the stars. "They're here," Miller whispered. On Earth below, people looked up at the night sky. Where there should have been stars, there was only darkness. The Black Fleet had arrived. Admiral Peterson's voice came over all channels, all ships, battle stations. "This is not a drill. May God help us all." Miller looked at Dr. Green. "We need to find that Sentinel Protocol. Fast." The first shots of humanity's greatest battle lit up the space around Earth like new stars being born. Earth changed overnight. Cities became military camps. Factories worked around the clock making weapons and ships. Children and the elderly were moved to underground shelters. Everyone else prepared to fight. Commander Miller stood in the United Earth Defense Council chamber. World leaders filled the room, their faces grim. Admiral Peterson presented the situation. "The Black Fleet has destroyed 3 colonies and disabled our outer defense line," Peterson said. "They will reach Earth in 5 days." President Diane Warren stood up. She was a small woman, but her voice was strong. What are our options? Our weapons barely damage their ships, Peterson replied. We need something new. All eyes turned to Miller. He stepped forward and took a deep breath. The object we found sent a signal to the Black Fleet, Miller explained. We believe it contains information about their technology. Dr. Green and I have been studying it. Dr. Green stood beside him. The symbols on the object tell about the Black Fleet's power source. They use the energy of living beings and technology. They've been doing this for thousands of years, moving from one civilization to another. President Warren frowned. How does this help us? We think we can use the object to disrupt their ships, Miller said. But we need time. We'll give you what time we can, Admiral Peterson promised. The meeting ended, and Miller returned to the lab with Dr. Green. They worked day and night, studying the object and its strange symbols. Look at this pattern, Dr. Green said on the fourth day. It repeats at specific frequencies. Miller checked her data. You're right. Could that be a weakness? They ran tests, sending different energy pulses at a small piece of the object. Most had no effect, but one specific frequency made it vibrate. That's it, Miller exclaimed. We need to modify our weapons to use this frequency. They rushed their findings to Admiral Peterson. Engineers worked frantically to adjust Earth's defense systems. On the fifth day, the battle began near Jupiter. The Black Fleet moved toward Earth with unstoppable force. Human ships fired their weapons, most with no effect. But the few ships using the new frequency caused damage. It's working, Miller said as he watched from the command center. Not enough, but it's something. Then disaster struck. The largest ship in the Black Fleet released thousands of smaller vessels. They swarmed the human fleet like angry insects, tearing ships apart. We need to fall back, Admiral Peterson ordered. Regroup at Mars' defense line. The retreat was painful to watch. Half of Earth's fleet was destroyed in minutes. The survivors limped back to Mars, bringing terrible news. They're not just destroying us, reported Captain Greg Mason, his face burned and bloody. They're taking people, pulling them right out of ships, thousands of them. Miller remembered the legends. They're harvesting. Dr. Green was studying new data from the battle. John, look at this. When our ships hit them with the right frequency, their energy patterns changed. They became vulnerable for a few seconds. Miller nodded. But we need more power. A way to hit all their ships at once. An alarm sounded. A security officer burst into the room. Sir, we found something on Mars, he said. An underground structure, very old. It was hidden until the Black Fleet's energy disrupted the soil above it. What kind of structure? Miller asked. Unknown, sir, but there's something inside. Something alive. Miller and Dr. Green exchanged looks. The legends mentioned guardians, she said quietly. Beings who fought the Black Fleet long ago. Get a team ready, Miller told the officer. We're going to Mars immediately. As they prepared to leave, the Black Fleet destroyed the outer Mars defense line. Earth had 3 days left, at most. Miller looked at the red planet growing larger in the viewport. Their last hope might be waiting below its dusty surface. The Martian dust swirled around Miller as he stepped out of the transport ship. Dr. Green followed close behind. The red landscape was dotted with digging equipment and worried-looking soldiers. This way, Commander, said Captain Steve Ross, leading them toward a large hole in the ground. We found it yesterday when our sensors picked up unusual energy readings. They descended into the darkness. The air grew cold as they went deeper. After walking for 10 minutes, they reached a large metal door covered in symbols similar to those on the void object. Dr. Green, Miller asked. She ran her hand over the symbols. It's the same language. It says, Refuge of the Last Watcher. Can you open it? Miller asked. Dr. Green studied the door, then pressed a sequence of symbols. With a deep rumbling sound, the door slowly opened. Stale air rushed out. Inside was a large chamber filled with strange technology. In the center stood a glass tube, Inside the tube was a humanoid figure with pale blue skin and silver hair. Its eyes were closed. "Is it alive?" Captain Ross whispered. Dr. Green checked a nearby control panel. "Life signs are stable. It's in some kind of sleep state." Miller approached the tube. "Can we wake it?" Before Dr. Green could answer, the tube began to glow. The liquid inside drained away. The figure's eyes opened, solid white with no pupils. The tube opened, and the being stepped out. It was tall and thin, wearing a suit made of a material that shimmered like metal, but moved like cloth. "You have come," it said in perfect English. The signal was sent. "The harvesters have returned." Miller stepped forward. "Who are you?" "I am Sam Carter. My people called themselves the Watchers. We fought the ones you call the Black Fleet long ago." Miller blinked in surprise. "You speak English, and your name." "I have been monitoring your communications for centuries, learning your languages," Carter explained. "I chose a name from your culture to make interaction easier." "Your people fought the Black Fleet?" Dr. Green asked. Carter nodded. "For 100 of your years. We lost. I was placed here as a final measure, to help the next civilization when the harvesters returned." "How can we stop them?" Miller asked. "You found the frequency that disrupts their shields." "That was the first step," Carter said. "But you need more power and a way to hit all ships at once." "Do you have weapons we can use?" Captain Ross asked eagerly. "Better. I have knowledge." Carter walked to a control panel and pressed several buttons. A hologram appeared, showing a network of satellites. "My people created a defense system. We called them the Sentinels. Most were destroyed, but 3 remain hidden in this system." Miller studied the hologram. "Where are they?" "One orbits your sun at a great distance. Another is buried deep in your moon. The third is here on Mars, beneath us." "Can we activate them?" Dr. Green asked. "Yes, but it requires specific codes and compatible technology." Carter looked at their equipment. "We need to merge your technology with mine. The Sentinels will create a field that amplifies the disruptive frequency." Suddenly, alarms sounded. Captain Ross checked his communicator. "The Black Fleet has broken through the Mars defense line. They'll reach Earth in hours, not days." Carter's expression remained calm. "We must hurry. First, we activate the Mars Sentinel. Then we split into teams to reach the others." Miller nodded. "Dr. Green, you and I will go with Carter to activate the Mars Sentinel. Captain Ross, contact Admiral Peterson. Tell him what we found and to hold the line just a little longer." As they moved deeper into the underground complex, Miller felt a mix of hope and fear. They had found an ally, but time was running out for Earth. Carter led them to a massive door. "Beyond this lies the Sentinel, and our first real chance to fight back." The Mars Sentinel was bigger than Miller had imagined. It filled an enormous underground chamber, a giant machine shaped like a pyramid with glowing blue lines running across its surface. Carter led them to a control panel at its base. "This will take time to activate," Carter explained. "It has been dormant for thousands of years." Dr. Green helped Carter connect their equipment to the ancient technology. Miller stood guard, his weapon ready. The Black Fleet would surely detect the energy once the Sentinel powered up. "Commander Miller," a voice came through his communicator. It was Lieutenant Brooks from the Constellation. "We have a situation. General Henry Thompson has taken command of the defense fleet. He's ordered all forces to attack the Black Fleet head-on." Miller frowned. "That's suicide. Tell Admiral Peterson." "Admiral Peterson has been relieved of command," Brooks interrupted. "General Thompson says we can't risk everything on an ancient fairy tale." Miller looked at Carter and Dr. Green working on the Sentinel. "Brooks, you need to stall Thompson. We have a real chance here." "I'll try. But—" Brooks's voice was cut off by static. Miller turned to Dr. Green. "How much longer?" "Almost there," she replied, not looking up from her work. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the complex. Captain Ross rushed in. "Commander, we've got multiple bogies incoming. The Black Fleet detected us. Miller checked his tactical display. 5 small Black Fleet ships were descending toward their location. "We need a defense team topside now," Miller ordered. "Hold them off as long as possible." Captain Ross nodded and left with half their security team. Miller heard gunfire above them minutes later. "The Sentinel is at 40% power," Carter announced. "We need at least 80% for activation." The complex shook as something heavy landed on the surface. Dust fell from the ceiling. "They're trying to dig their way in," Miller said. Dr. Green worked frantically at the controls. 60% now. More explosions rocked the complex. Miller's communicator crackled. "Commander," Captain Ross's voice was strained, "we can't hold them much longer. They have some kind of energy weapons that cut through our defenses like paper." "Hold your position, Captain," Miller ordered. "Just a few more minutes." Another explosion, closer this time. Part of the ceiling collapsed near the entrance. 75%, Carter called out. "Almost there." Miller's communicator came to life again. "Commander Miller, this is General Thompson. You are ordered to abandon that site immediately and return to Earth defense line." "With all due respect, General, we're about to activate a weapon that could change the course of this war," Miller replied. "That's an order, Commander," Thompson shouted. "I will not waste resources protecting your wild goose chase." Miller turned off his communicator. "Carter, how close are we?" 85%. It's starting to respond." The Sentinel's blue lines glowed brighter. The pyramid structure began to hum with power. More of the ceiling fell. Miller could see dark shapes moving in the dust above. "They're breaking through," he shouted, aiming his weapon upward. A black, claw-like appendage reached through the hole in the ceiling. Miller fired, but his shots seemed to be absorbed by the dark material. 90%, Carter said calmly. "Just a few more seconds." Miller kept firing as more claws broke through. Dr. Green grabbed a weapon and joined him. 95%, Carter called. Initializing activation sequence. A large section of ceiling collapsed. A Black Fleet drone dropped into the chamber, a nightmarish machine with multiple limbs and glowing red sensors. "Now, Carter," Miller shouted. 100%. Activating. Carter pressed his hand to the control panel. The Sentinel pyramid pulsed with brilliant blue light. The drone froze in place, then collapsed as if its power had been cut. The entire complex shook as energy surged through the Sentinel. A beam of blue light shot upward, punching through the ceiling and continuing into the sky. From orbit, the beam would have been visible as a bright blue pillar rising from the red Martian surface. "It's working," Carter said. "The Mars Sentinel is online." Earth looked beautiful from space. Blue oceans, white clouds, green and brown land. But now dark ships hung above it like hungry predators. The Black Fleet had arrived in full force. 12 massive ships surrounded the planet. Smaller vessels swarmed between them. Earth's defense forces fought bravely, but were overwhelmed. In Chicago, engineer Paul Harris led a group of survivors through the ruins of downtown. The invasion had started 6 hours ago. Black ships had landed in every major city. Strange machines rolled through the streets, capturing people and destroying resistance. "Stay low," Harris whispered to the 20 civilians following him. They moved from building to building, hiding from the machines. A woman pointed upward. "What is that?" A beam of blue light shot across the sky. Where it touched a Black Fleet ship, the dark hull seemed to weaken. "The Mars Sentinel," Harris said, remembering Miller's emergency broadcast. "They got it working." On the moon, Miller, Dr. Green, and a small team worked frantically to reach the second Sentinel. They had escaped Mars in a small ship just as the Black Fleet destroyed the surface. The Mars Sentinel was still active, protected deep underground. "The Lunar Sentinel should be just ahead," Carter said, leading them through a narrow tunnel. The moon base above them had been evacuated as the Black Fleet approached. They reached a sealed door with familiar symbols. Dr. Green quickly decoded them. and they entered a chamber similar to the one on Mars. The activation should be faster this time, Carter said. The network is already initialized. As they worked, Miller received an emergency communication from Admiral Peterson. Miller, the situation is critical, Peterson said. His face was bloody, his uniform torn. General Thompson's attack failed. The Black Fleet has begun landing operations. Millions have been taken. We're activating the Lunar Sentinel now, Miller replied. Has there been any effect from the Mars Sentinel? Yes, it's disrupting their smaller ships. But the main fleet is still operational. We need more power. The signal cut off abruptly. Miller turned to Carter. How long until this Sentinel is online? Minutes only, Carter answered. But Miller, even with 2 Sentinels, we cannot stop them completely. We need the Solar Sentinel as well. Dr. Green looked up from her work. The Solar Sentinel is at the edge of the system. How do we reach it in time? Carter's expression was grim. I must go alone. My physiology can withstand the journey. I will take your fastest ship. Miller shook his head. That's a suicide mission, Carter. The Black Fleet controls the space between here and there. It is the only way, Carter insisted. My people failed to stop the harvesters. I will not let yours suffer the same fate. The Lunar Sentinel hummed to life, its power building rapidly. Through a viewport, Miller saw a blue beam shoot up from the moon's surface toward Earth. Where it met the beam from Mars, the energy expanded, creating a net of blue light. Several smaller Black Fleet ships caught in the energy field exploded or drifted powerless. But the larger ships continued their attack on Earth. In Chicago, Harris and his group saw the blue energy net in the sky. The nearby Black Fleet machines seemed to move more slowly. It's working, Harris told his group. We need to get to the resistance base. They have weapons that might work now. On the moon, Carter prepared to leave for the Solar Sentinel. Dr. Green gave him a small device. This contains the activation codes and the frequency disruptors we developed, she explained. Carter took it and nodded. If I succeed, the 3 Sentinels will create a field that will disable all harvester technology in your system. Miller gripped Carter's shoulder. Good luck. As Carter's ship departed, Miller received another transmission. It was Lieutenant Brooks. Commander, Earth Defense Headquarters has fallen. Admiral Peterson is leading the last stand in Washington. The President is safe in a bunker, but half the planet is under Black Fleet control. Miller looked at Dr. Green, determination in his eyes. We need to get back to Earth. The Lunar Sentinel will hold, but our people need leadership. They boarded their ship as the blue energy net grew stronger above Earth. The final battle for humanity had begun. The battle for Earth reached its 7th day. Cities burned. Millions were missing. The blue energy net from the 2 active Sentinels covered half the planet, weakening the Black Fleet but not stopping them. Miller stood in the remains of Earth Defense Headquarters with Admiral Peterson, Dr. Green, and the surviving military leaders. Lieutenant Brooks operated the communication station. Carter should have reached the Solar Sentinel by now, Miller said, checking the time. If he's still alive, Admiral Peterson replied. His arm was in a makeshift sling. The Black Fleet controls most of the space between here and there. Dr. Green studied the tactical display. The energy field is holding, but the Black Fleet has adapted. Their largest ships can still operate inside it. We need the 3rd Sentinel, Miller said. Brooks called out from her station. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Paul Harris in Chicago. He says they found something important. Harris' tired face appeared on the screen. Behind him, civilians and soldiers worked together in what looked like a school basement. Commander Miller, we captured one of their smaller machines, Harris reported. Dr. Green was right. They run on harvested human energy. But we found something else. The machines have a central control point. They're not independent. Miller leaned forward. What does that mean? It means there's a command ship, Harris explained. If we can disable it, the smaller units might shut down. Miller turned to Dr. Green. Could that work for the whole fleet? She nodded slowly. It fits with what we know. The Black Fleet operates as a single organism. Carter mentioned this too. Which one is the command ship? Admiral Peterson asked. Harris sent data to their screens. Based on energy patterns, it's this one. A large ship near the North Pole glowed red on their display. We need to target that ship, Miller said. If Carter activates the third sentinel. A loud alarm interrupted him. Brooks checked her instruments. Massive energy spike detected at the edge of the system. She announced. The solar sentinel is activating. Everyone watched as a third blue beam appeared in space, shooting toward Earth. Where it met the other two beams, the energy field expanded dramatically, covering the entire planet. Small Black Fleet ships fell from the sky. The larger vessels slowed, clearly struggling against the energy field. It's working, Dr. Green said. Carter did it. Miller pointed to the command ship on the display. We need to hit that now, while it's weakened. Every ship, every weapon we have left. Admiral Peterson nodded and issued orders. Earth's remaining defense forces launched a coordinated attack on the command ship. Fighters and battleships converged on it, firing weapons modified with the disruptive frequency. The command ship's dark hull absorbed most attacks, but where the three sentinel beams converged, its surface began to crack, revealing bright light underneath. Keep firing, Miller ordered. In Chicago, Harris and his resistance fighters saw the battle in the sky. The Black Fleet machines in the streets suddenly stopped moving. It's happening, Harris told his people. Get the weapons. Take them out while they're vulnerable. Across Earth, similar scenes played out as resistance forces attacked the disabled machines. In space, the command ship's hull finally cracked open. Light poured out as the massive vessel began to break apart. All ships, pull back, Admiral Peterson ordered. The command ship exploded in a blinding flash. A wave of energy spread outward, washing over the remaining Black Fleet vessels. One by one, they went dark, drifting lifeless in space. Cheers erupted in the command center. Miller looked at Dr. Green, relief on both their faces. Carter, he said quietly. Did he make it? Brooks checked her instruments. No life signs detected at the Solar Sentinel location. I'm sorry, sir. Miller nodded sadly. He saved us all. Days later, Miller stood before a crowd of survivors. A memorial had been built to honor those lost in the battle, with Carter's name given special prominence. Today, we begin rebuilding, Miller told them. The Black Fleet is defeated, but we must not forget the legends that warned us. We will record our own story, so future generations will believe. In orbit above Earth, the blue energy field still glowed faintly. The Sentinels remained active, watching, waiting. For somewhere in the darkness beyond their solar system, other Black Fleet ships might still exist, searching for new civilizations to harvest. But now, humanity was ready. The legends had become their shield.